Look at this cute little thing. We got ourselves a wood stove. We'd originally ordered a nicer little cast iron wood stove that was probably well made compared to this thing. But it just wasn't in stock. They said they had 3 in stock when we ordered it, but it turned out they didn't have any, and it was going to be a while before any more were made. So we canceled that order and just went on Amazon, found the quickest thing we could find that would arrive at our doorstep, and that's this little thing. It's amazing that something like this can be made for about $100 and shipped halfway around the world in 2 days. I think this is going to be our saving grace for the winter. It'll make a pretty big difference between just surviving and being somewhat comfortable. We're going to put this into the shed, plumb it out the side of the wall, and hopefully heat the place up so we can dry out and be somewhat civilized, I suppose. But it's kind of cute, and it works. I'm kind of a firm believer that you get what you pay for, and we definitely got what we paid for. It is flimsy and cheap, and it seems almost like a toy, but it puts out a lot of heat. But it had surprisingly good reviews on Amazon, and I'll say that with a caveat. There was a couple of big things. First, that it's flimsy and cheap. You get what you pay for. But the second thing, every single person said to light a fire in it outside, a good and hot one, before you put this thing inside. Because the paint on it is not actually high temp paint. It's just probably somebody with a rattle can, cheap paint. So it burns off when you put a fire in it. And it smells pretty ripe. So yeah, we're lighting the fire outside. Once it's burned off, we'll put it in there. Yesterday, we burned a fire in this little wood stove for about 8 hours. So I assumed all the old paint would be burned off. So we installed it in the shed this morning, thinking it would be good to go, but not so much. It is smoking like crazy. The little bit of paint that's left, I don't know. It's kind of toxic. So we can't actually hang out in the shed at the moment. We just need to keep burning this thing off, and hopefully, once the paint is gone, this will work out. Well, if this little stove doesn't work out, I guess it's going to be about a $100 experiment that quite possibly at this point could fail. I don't know yet. I'm still hopeful. I haven't given up on it yet, but we're going to see. Well, we're going to burn some more fires through it today and hopefully burn off the rest of the paint. But if that doesn't do it, this thing's getting yanked out, and we'll just have to wait for something better to be made. But really, we ordered this thing because it was the quickest shipping thing we could find. We were cold and wet and miserable, and I didn't want to wait for a month for a little wood stove. I don't know. You get what you pay for. That's the moral of the story. It's cheap and flimsy. It's cute. But if it doesn't work, it's garbage. But since I consider myself more of an optimist than anything, I'm going to assume that this little wood stove is going to burn off the paint, and this shed will be, well, not so toxic for one thing, but a nice, warm, comfortable, dry place to hang out when it's cold and nasty out. But to make that happen, we're going to need some more firewood. We have a pretty good stash going. One of the trees we took down to make the siding for the shed was a dead standing cedar tree. It was dry as a bone. So we got some really good firewood out of it, as well as a bunch of really good siding. But that isn't going to last too long. Cedar's great, but it burns up fast and hot, so we're going to need some more trees. Luckily, we've got a ton of dead standing trees around that really need to come down. So today, instead of starting to cut a road, I think we're going to get some firewood so we can be comfy and warm at night. I got one tree in mind at the moment. So this tree right here, this is a dead tamarack. Tamarack is some of the best firewood around. But since it's dead and kind of crooked, I don't really want to deal with it with the chainsaw. I'm pretty competent with the chainsaw. I'm comfortable with it, but I'm also pretty cautious. This one's got a bit of tension in it, and it's doing something funky. So rather than come over here and cut it down with the chainsaw, I'm just going to use the backhoe. The bucket could go up high and just push it right over. Piece of cake and kind of safer. Good morning. Well, today's another day. We had a pretty productive day yesterday. We got the wood stove in and burned another fire in it pretty much all day long into the night. And I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know. It might be garbage, which is disappointing because I was pretty excited about some heat. But today we're going to keep moving forward and clear a spot to build a solar kiln. Once the house gets moving, we're going to need a whole lot of lumber. So the thought is to get the kiln built. We can take down some trees when we're cutting in the road and clearing the build site, make that into lumber, and then put it in the kiln. So by the time we're ready to build, it'll be dry and good to go. So right over here, just not too far away from the shed, we've got a nice little platform that should get some sun once we're not in the middle of winter anymore. So I'm going to fire up the tractor, move some dirt, clear some land, and that'll be some more progress. How's it going, Shovel Queen?
Yeah, these alder bushes are no joke.
Get it, Brenda, get it!
When's Sarah coming?
You're getting awful good with that shovel.
Shoveling. You know, this is... I had so much experience doing this in the city. This is what it looks like when a city girl moves to rural Idaho. It takes a little while. Or a boat girl moves to rural Idaho. It takes a little while to get used to it.
Well, that's about as good as we're going to get it today. The ground got a little soft, so I can't really drive the backhoe much more in here because I'm flattening a spot out and then sinking right behind it. So that's it. Until the ground dries out a bit, which may be a month or two away, that's as much flattening as we can do. But I think it should be good enough to put a kiln in and still give us enough room to load lumber in and let it dry out. Progress, that's good. Well, it's gonna get dark here pretty quickly, so I think before we wrap up the day and wrap up this episode, I just want to say a quick couple of things. If you watched our last episode, we were trying to figure out some septic stuff, and a lot of you gave some pretty helpful insight, so thank you very much. I don't have great internet access out here, so I can't really respond all that quickly, but thank you very much. We're trying to figure some stuff out, and I'll keep you posted on what we figure out. But we have enough info at this point to apply for a building permit, start cutting a road, and at least get that site developed a little bit. So we'll cover that coming up in some episodes in the near future. But the second thing before we call this an episode is our wood stove. It's garbage! You get what you pay for! It was 110 bucks shipped, which should have told us something, but it came fast. That's what we wanted. We were cold, wet, and desperate. But it's getting ripped out. Most of the paint's burnt off, but it's garbage. I'll just leave it at that. Garbage! All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.